What up, YouTube? It's your boy RDS, and let's go. Stephen King. I can actually admit that I have read multiple Stephen King books, and as everyone may know, if you read book and then you actually watch the movie, you will know that it's more into the book. They don't always put everything into the movies because they can't fit everything. And I'm a big fan of keeping things somewhat the same and not changing it as much. But a lot of directors go that route. And I'm pretty sure they have to get the okay from the writer, the person who wrote the book, in order to, put that in their movie. But there were several Stephen King books that after seeing the movie, I was like, okay, they nailed it. They were right on point with everything in the book. And you all might not agree with me on that. But, and I'm also a big horror fan. And it's getting close to Halloween. It's getting close to that time, to spook everyone out, to dress the way you want to dress. And this right here, we're about to get into the 10 worst and 10 best Stephen King movies. And I'm pretty sure I know a few that's probably going to be in the worst category, because there were some bad ones out there, but they were still worth watching. So without further ado, let's jump into this reaction.
Stephen King's books have been adapted to film or television over 100 times, making him the all-time king of adaptations from a living author's work. But while some adaptations of his works rank among the most beloved films of all time, others are hardly worth remembering at all. To help you parse out the good from the bad, here's a list of the 10 worst and 10 best Stephen King adaptations so far. Not in any particular order, but starting with the ones that probably don't deserve your time. Cell. 9 years after appearing together in 1408, which we'll be talking about much later, John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson reunited for Cell. Unfortunately, it wasn't a reunion really worth having. The plot centers on Clay Riddell, a man who's determined to reunite with his son after a malevolent electronic...
I'm a big, huge John Cusack fan, and of course Samuel Jackson. And this movie wasn't terrible, but it's not watching more than one damn time. I hate to say they, I don't know, they could have went a different route with this. It wasn't scary at all. The storytelling was it was just awful. And like I said, this is a movie that I would not watch again.
signal turns cell phone users into mindless killers. Along the way, he teams up with train driver Tom McCourt in order to better their chances of survival. While the novel was generally well received for its technophobic take on the zombie trope, the movie suffered a far less positive fate. It stunk. Graveyard Shift. 1990's Graveyard Shift still stands as one of the worst King adaptations.
It may be the worst, but I love Graveyard Shift. I love it. So I don't care what he says. That's one of my favorite Stephen King movies, and I love the book.
In a Maine textile mill where a drifter has taken a job, several overnight employees have died, and the egomaniacal foreman sends the drifter and others down into the basement to investigate. King's short story didn't translate well to the screen. The saving grace of the film is a crazy exterminator played by Brad Dourif.
This place is infested. That might be the understatement of the year.
But even that's not enough to save this movie. Thinner. Despite having excellent source material, Tom Holland's 1990...
Another good movie. I love it, and that's a movie I'm gonna watch in the next few days. But yeah, it's, to actually go through something like that is kind of scary. The guy started off, a decent size, and thinner and thinner and thinner he went until... If you've seen the movie, you already know. I'm not going to give it away if you haven't seen it yet.
adaptation of Thinner just couldn't pull it off. When an obese and morally bankrupt lawyer, Billy Halleck, accidentally runs over and kills a gypsy woman, he uses his court connections to get off the hook. The woman's elderly father takes revenge by placing a curse upon Halleck, one which soon has him uncontrollably losing weight to the point of emaciation. The premise is definitely scary, but the effect falls flat on the big screen, especially when we're confronted with the actor in a terribly fake latex fat suit that only gets slightly less hilarious as he sheds the pounds. Maximum Overdrive. Stephen King himself stepped behind the lens for the 1986 adaptation of his own Maximum Overdrive.
Emilio Estevez, I believe, starred in Maximum Overdrive. I might be wrong. I can remember seeing this movie, but I can't recall what actually happened. I know certain parts here and there, but it wasn't too great. Wasn't a fan.
It was my first picture as a director, and you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Others, however, did not. This movie puts Earth in the tail of a comet, after which once inert machines suddenly come to life and go on a murderous rampage against humans. At a truck stop, a bland protagonist played by Emilio Estevez and an odd assortment of other unremarkable characters settle in to wait out the living trucks that have them pinned down inside. While Maximum Overdrive does have a killer soundtrack from AC/DC and a few neat shots peppered throughout, the movie is still a maximum dud. Needful Things. Although the novel Needful Things is a favorite among...
I love this movie. I've seen it at least 4 or 5 times. I love this movie. I love everything about it. I love the evil character. I don't like how it really turned out at the end, because I wanted the bad guy to, to live, to carry on. But unfortunately, that did not happen. Ed Harris plays a great role up in this movie, and this is one of his best movies to me. If y'all have an opinion on that, on which movie you think Ed Harris was best in, hit me up in the comments and let me know. But I really did like Needful Things. It had like that Halloween 80s vibe to it. The like spooky town, and everyone knows each other, grew up with each other and things like that. Something I always wanted to be part of. But yeah, I actually love this movie.
King fans, the 1993 film adaptation of the story might leave audiences ready to sell their own souls to the devil just to get it over with. Set in Castle Rock, Maine, Needful Things follows a character named Leland Gaunt, opening an antique store called, you guessed it, Needful Things. Many of the town's residents soon find their heart's desires fulfilled by the store's items, some of which have a distinctly supernatural bent. But Gaunt's prizes are nearly too good to be true. Rather than heaps of cash, Gaunt just wants the town people to play pranks on each other. But those small misdeeds end up igniting some intense rivalries, and things turn violent very quickly.
We're having fun now.
If that sounds like an intriguing story, that's because it is. King's written version of Needful Things is certainly worthy of your time, but the movie's failure to translate the character development of many players involved renders this movie a total wash. At least we got a pretty great Rick and Morty episode out of it.
A typewriter that generates best-selling murder mysteries and then makes the murders happen in real life? Ooh!
Be quiet.
The Mangala. Tobe Hooper's 1994 adaptation of King's short story.
Never heard of this, so this is my first time actually seeing what this is about, so I might have to check it out, but never heard of this movie.
The Mangala somehow spanned 2 sequels, but the original was not actually very good. The movie stars Freddy Krueger actor Robert Englund as a sinister laundry service owner whose machine has been possessed by a demon that's been activated by the presence of blood and over-the-counter antacids. Yes, really. The original short story was pretty threadbare to begin with, but the movie completely ignored the opportunity to make a campy pick that pokes fun at itself. Instead, we're left with a ridiculous and gory flick that goes on way too long and takes itself much too seriously. Riding the Bullet. When King published his 2000 novella Riding the Bullet, it was generally well received by critics and made history as the first mass-distributed ebook. The story follows
Another movie I have never heard of or never seen. Wow, gonna have to check that out as well.
Alan Parker, an erotic and depressed college student whose obsession with worst-case scenarios nearly drives him to suicide. After receiving news that his mother has had a stroke, Parker decides to hitchhike so he can reach her before she passes. But instead of culminating in an exciting thrill ride, the movie renders the journey completely boring. Add this to your skip list. Dreamcatcher. Even Stephen King didn't completely love his 2001 novel Dreamcatcher, but the resulting movie was even worse. The film follows 4 lifelong friends who have psychic powers, of course.
Do not listen to him. That movie is not bad. That's one of my favorite Stephen King movies. It reminds me of Stranger Things, but the only difference is that the kids become adults and they have to reunite to try to stop that sinister force. And I love it because it got Morgan Freeman in it. So he's one of my, like I say, he's one of my favorite actors of all time. So I don't agree with him on that because this movie was good. The killing was good. It had a lot of gore. Had a lot of, like I said, had a lot of killing in it. And there were certain parts that you probably had to turn away because it was too gruesome to watch. So this is a great movie to check out, and I'm pretty sure that you all will love it.
On a winter hunting trip to upstate Maine, they soon find themselves caught between invading aliens and the US military forces trying to contain them. Thomas Jane, Damian Lewis, Timothy Olyphant, and Jason Lee do fine work as the friends, but Morgan Freeman falls flat as an overzealous commander with ridiculously distracting eyebrows. What results is an overly long, free-associating mess of a movie that could have been much better if it had just stuck to one tone. The Lawn Mower Man. If you're a fan of this short story from King's 1978
I have heard of this movie, I just never seen it, so it's going to be another movie that I will be checking out.
collection Night Shift, don't be fooled by Brett Leonard's 1992 film The Lawn Mower Man. It's an adaptation in name only. Other than the title and a single scene, the movie bears little resemblance to the source material. Instead of a nutty little tale about a lawn mowing service gone horribly wrong, the film steals from the short story Flowers for Algernon and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein for its mishmashed plot. The movie centers on a doctor who chooses a mentally impaired greenskeeper to be the subject of his experiments in intelligence boosting via virtual reality and a drug cocktail. Follow King's lead on this one and give the lousy story of the Lawn Mower Man a hard pass. The Nightflyer. The Nightflyer stays fairly true to King's original short story, but that doesn't mean that this 1997 adaptation is actually a good movie. Miguel Ferrer plays tabloid reporter Richard Dees, who attempts to hunt down a serial killer.
I'm just like, what the fuck? I have not heard of this, never seen it, but I don't believe I want to see this.
Killer who uses a small aircraft to travel from town to town, leaving a grisly trail of victims in his wake. Dees soon finds that this is no ordinary criminal, and must also deal with a competing reporter who's trying her hardest to steal his scoop. While the short story's version of Dees was an unlikable cynic who finds his worldview shaken, the movie script and Ferrer's flat performance makes Dees a complete jerk with no redeeming qualities. If you decide to watch The Nightflyer, you'll probably find yourself rooting for the bad guy to win before it's all said and done. Now that we've gotten through the schlock, here are the best Stephen King adaptations so far. Carrie.
Yeah.
For over 40 years, Brian De Palma's 1976 adaptation of Carrie.
The movie has been remade so much, but this particular movie is by far the best. Scary as hell. I think this is one of John Travolta's first movies, if not his first movie. And I forgot the character's name, the woman who stars as the main character. I forgot her name, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna mention it. She played the shit out of that role. She is so terrifying. Oh, especially when she's getting picked on and you can see her face expressions. You know what she's capable of. That she can actually just kill them instantly whenever she's ready. All she got to do is think of it because her telekinesis. But the ending was scary. Especially her mom is so damn spooky. I would hate to have a mom like that. Like the house, the way they had the house, the atmosphere, the morale of the house, it was just, no, there's no way I would be able to stay in a house like that. It was terrifying.
Carrie has remained a classic. Released just 2 years after the book's publication, Carrie was the first adaptation of a Stephen King work, and it's still arguably the best. Featuring Sissy Spacek in the title role, this supernatural tale sets the hook of suspense and reels in the viewer without remorse. Spacek is at turns ethereal and terrifying as Carrie, and Piper Laurie delivers a commanding performance as a repressive Mother Margaret. Even though it's a little dated today, the original vision of Carrie still holds up as a must-watch Stephen King movie. Stand By Me. Unlike many King adaptations, Stand By Me is more...
Who doesn't like Stand By Me? River Phoenix, Corey Feldman. Those two, I know. Kiefer Sutherland. Oh, he played the hell of a bad guy in this. But I'm gonna have to do a reaction about River Phoenix one day. But I'm pretty sure if he was alive today, he would be a top 5 actor. He would be a top 5 actor. You see how his brother is, Joaquin Phoenix. The man was ahead of his time. Well, the boy was ahead of his time. Great actor. Great actor. I don't think he made a bad movie before his untimely death. But this movie is a classic. It's a classic. I remember being a kid watching this, like right in front of the TV, did not want to move. And it just catch you. It does. You know, the dog chasing scene, the pie scene, the body scene when they found the body, the running on the railroad track scene. I mean, it's just so much. And this just a movie that will always be one of those movies to where you can watch over and over and over, especially with your family if they never seen it before.
More coming-of-age drama than horror. Based on King's semi-autobiographical short story The Body, it follows 4 adolescent boys in a small Oregon town who embark on a journey to find the corpse of a missing boy. Thanks to the off-screen friendship forged by actors Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, and Corey Feldman, the authenticity of the characters' connection was incredibly real. Stand By Me remains a classic today, and even those who don't like horror films can enjoy this Stephen King story. The Dead Zone. David Cronenberg's 1983 adaptation.
I heard of The Dead Zone, wasn't a fan. I did not want to watch it. It was a couple times that I just passed that on. I did not want to watch it.
Of Stephen King's The Dead Zone remains a more accessible movie than King's more horrific works. The story focuses on Johnny Smith, a man who wakes up from a coma to discover he has unexplained psychic powers, and finds himself on a collision course with destiny during a pivotal election. It's a masterpiece of thrilling and suspenseful storytelling that strings viewers along before the final climactic scene. The Shawshank Redemption. Although it registered very little impact in theaters upon...
It probably didn't have impact in theaters because this ain't the type of movie that a lot of people will actually go spend their money on. But once again, Morgan Freeman. What can I say? And the storytelling was, there was nothing bad about this movie. Tim Robbins, he delivered, and a few other people that's in this movie as well. And like I say, this is an all-time classic, and I just watched this a couple of weeks ago, and I can't even count how many times I have watched it, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna watch it again in the upcoming weeks. But this is a great movie. Y'all definitely have to check this out.
Upon its release, director Frank Darabont's 1994 prison drama The Shawshank Redemption has gone on to become one of the best-loved films of the last 30 years. The movie tells the story of 2 prisoners serving life sentences at the Shawshank State Penitentiary, who become dear friends despite their difficult circumstances. Starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman in the lead roles, The Shawshank Redemption is a gritty tale with a lot of heart, and plot points that transcend the generations. The Shining. All work and no play might make Jack a dull boy.
What can you say about The Shining? Horror at its best. Just imagine you going to stay at a hotel and there's no one else there. You're there for, I believe it's like 5 or 6 months that he was there, and the person you with just goes crazy with a damn axe, just chasing you through the hotel, you and your son, and there's no one else around. How terrifying is that? The person you so-called love and know good, just boom, just changes on you. Terrifying to even think about it. Terrifying. Jack Nicklaus delivered, and pretty much all his movies. So if you know who Jack Nicklaus is, you already know he's a top 10 actor of all time, multiple Academy Award winner, and to this day the man's still making movies. Huge Laker fan. Dud on that one because I can't stand the Lakers. But yeah, this is a classic. And I believe his wife, I may be wrong, hit me up in the comments and let me know if anyone get this far, but did she play Olive Oil in the Popeye movie with shit, what's his name? Oh god, I can't think of his name. I feel so stupid right now. Robin Williams. I know he starred in he played the title character Popeye, and I believe the lady on here who plays his wife played Olive Oil. So hit me up in the comments and let me know if I'm wrong on that or right.
But The Shining most certainly isn't dull. Stanley Kubrick's 1980 version of The Shining still stands as one of the most beloved King adaptations, even if the author didn't care for it himself. The movie follows writer Jack Torrance, his wife Wendy, and their young son Danny as they travel to Colorado to become the winter caretakers of the opulent and haunted Overlook Hotel. Danny's psychic abilities allow him to see the terrifying past of the Overlook, and his troubled father's inner demons are exploited by the spirits still haunting the hotel. The tale deviates significantly from the source material, in both characterization and storyline. Nevertheless, The Shining continues to be a favorite among horror lovers. Misery. A psychological thriller directed by...
One scene in this movie I cannot watch. When she break his damn each feet. Just imagine a log between each ankle. Person standing right there in your sight with a fucking whatever that thing was that she used, and just decide to and break your damn ankles. That shit was so every time it gets to that part I have to turn away because they show it. You can see his fucking bone breaking, popping. It's just a classic. It's a classic.
Rob Reiner about fan obsession gone horribly wrong. 1990's Misery was a critical and commercial success that launched Kathy Bates' career, and for good reason. The plot follows romance author Paul Sheldon as he wakes up from a car accident to find himself in the care of a superfan named Annie Wilkes.
You and I were meant to be together forever.
When Wilkes learns that Sheldon has killed off her favorite character in his latest novel, things start to get grim, and there are some scenes of torment that won't soon be forgotten or forgiven by fans of this film. The Green Mile. Director Frank Darabont returned to the King Library for another prison drama.
Rest in peace to Michael Clark Duncan. He delivered in this movie. Tom Hanks did his thing, and so did the other characters. It was sad what happened to his Michael Clark Duncan's character at the end, but that's the way they wrote it, and I wish they would have went another direction with that. He actually would have lived, because it was sad to see someone with those gifts, you know, killed at the end. But great movie, great storytelling.
drama with 1999's The Green Mile, starring Tom Hanks and Michael Clarke Duncan. This flashback film is told from the perspective of Paul Edgecombe, who recounts the supernatural events he experienced as a corrections officer after a very special prisoner arrived on death row at the Cold Mountain Penitentiary. It's a soulful and thoughtful movie, which will leave most viewers profoundly affected after the credits roll. Dolores Claiborne. Kathy Bates returned to the world of Stephen King when she appeared in the 1995 psychological thriller.
Never seen Dolores Claiborne, but this is actually a movie that I want to see one day.
Dolores Claiborne, based on the novel of the same name and directed by Taylor Hackford. The film follows the tale of a domestic servant who's accused of murdering her elderly employer. It's a harrowing and suspenseful tale that will keep audiences guessing until the end. 1408. In the 2007 psychological horror film 1408, John Cusack does what he does best. He plays a cynic with love problems. Starring as Mike Enslin, a skeptical author who decides...
I just watched this movie a couple of days ago, 1408. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan of both actors, and I love this movie. A lot of people think it's kind of corny because it's labeled as a horror movie, and there is some horror scenes in it, but they're not scary. You can actually sit and watch without jumping or anything like that, but I just love the movie. So hit me up and let me know what y'all think of 1408.
To check into a notoriously haunted hotel room in order to investigate it. He's joined by Samuel L. Jackson as hotel manager Gerald Olin. What follows is a tense and terrifying descent into Enslin's psyche. Although it's definitely not on the level of The Shining, 1408 is still a satisfying and scary haunted hotel effort that manages to generate genuine thrills without relying on bucketfuls of gore. It. The feature film debut of It smashed all sorts of records on its opening weekend, and for good reason. It's a very decent adaptation of one of King's most prized books. The 1990 TV miniseries successfully translated the scares of the novel as well, but its budgeted special effects and bloated acting moments have kept that version from aging well in the years since. The new version of It, however, is much sharper and more intense, and also presents the heart and wit of the novel's characters. Scary clowns might be a cultural phenomenon that makes Pennywise a timely terror, but count on this one to be more than just a flash-in-the-pan favorite.
You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon.
Yes, it is indeed a cultural phenomenon. And I will prefer the old It over the new one. I like them both. I do. But it's just something about that old one that it has that scary sense to it. And there's parts in that movie, even to this day, I would probably jump, even though I know what's about to happen. And as far as the It himself, the clown, I will have to give the edge to Curry's It. The man was terrifying. He was terrifying. And not to take nothing away from, I can't remember the guy's name who played the It in the remake, but both were good. And I would say watch them both. Neither one is bad. You will love them both if you have not seen it. Remember, it's a part 1 and part 2 of each one. So the original one had a part 1, part 2, and the remake had a part 1 and part 2. Long movie. So you probably won't be able to watch them both in one day unless you're the type of person that like to sit in front of a movie or a TV screen for almost 4.5 hours. But so hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think of the 10 best Stephen King and 10 worst Stephen King movie reaction. And let me know what's your favorite Stephen King movie and what's your worst Stephen King movie. I would love to know. As always, thank y'all for tuning in. Until next time, peace, love, and deuces.